Okay, we should be live. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining in. I'm here with Joe from Red Pill Vegan. Thanks, Joe, for being on here. This is
Yes, sir.
this is part one that will be on my channel. Part two will be on Joe's channel. So make sure you check in on Joe's part two. We do it like in this format that it's just free flow with the discussion. And I'll just start with Joe to talk a little bit about his channel. And maybe your name is very interesting, Red Pill Vegan. So let's start right with that. So what does your name mean? What is the meaning behind the name?
Thank you, Florian. Yeah, a lot of people ask that. And I think the term red pill is really outside of the box. It's not going back in the box. We can't stuff it back in. And so it means a lot of things more than maybe what I originally intended. And that's kind of the dangerous thing about internet memes is that they take on meaning and attract people that will drive it in a different direction, like the Pepe meme, for instance, if you know how the direction that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But so for me, the red pill is both kind of an understanding of truth and an accepting of things, the uncomfortable truths that are around us. And beyond that, it is also kind of has the dual meaning of the red pill within the sense of the manosphere. And we could touch more on that, but for people who aren't familiar, it's not the focus of my channel, but it's something that has helped me improve the value in my life and see the direction that I want to take with my goals in my life through basically it's kind of a self-help part of the internet that's geared towards men. And so I combined basically some of the knowledge from the red pill with the vegan diet, and I was getting the best results when I employed both of those strategies together concurrently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For those that don't know, I'm also considered a red pill, like at least to some degree. I've read the classic book called from Rollo Tomasi, The Rational Male. Probably know about that.
Yeah, I've actually read all three of those books. I would highly recommend them to any young men out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite one was the second one, the preventative medicine.
I think I've just read one, Shame on Me, like the classic one. Um, not sure of it's called just now, but it really was an eye opener, and it basically helped me a lot get over my breakup. So also highly recommend those books from QG approved.
QG.
Quality games.
Yeah, that's right.
But probably what is more interesting to viewers that we have on our channels is the vegan movement. So maybe Joe, what has led you down this vegan path? What is your story with veganism?
I say it really all begins with a choice that we all make, which is that we want to be healthier. And for me, I think it comes down to one of the things I've heard you talk about on your channel before, which is if you're listening to the wrong people and you have the wrong information, you might make the wrong choices with the confidence that you're actually doing the right thing.
Mhm.
And that's what really ultimately led me to a plant-based diet was that before that I was doing a low carb diet and I really wanted to start improving my health after college because I went to a school that's known for a party atmosphere and I was big into drinking and partying. Can you relate to that when the way you
Yeah, for
came
sure.
up?
For sure, for sure. I definitely grew up too early, which is like what my brothers used to tell me. I remember I was caught like when I was like 15, 14, I was caught drunk in my home from my mom. And it
uh
was like, yeah, she told me I should be home at like 10 p.m. I came home at like 1, 2 a.m. and had school the next day and I was completely drunk. Fun times.
so, so you know how it is when you grow up fast and you get exposed to a lot of the things in the world that are they just strike the pleasure senses, get that dopamine spike, get that quick high, that good feeling.
Mhm.
Then after you get a little bit more serious, after you graduate, after you end up in the working world, you start to look for ways to kind of bring some balance into your life, take care of yourself a little bit more. And that's where I started going down the road towards improving my diet. And at the time, it was around the late 2000s, early 2000s era, and the paleo diet was the thing right then. And
Mhm.
I know you remember the phenomenon of that, and it's the names have changed a lot in the way that these diets are marketed, but a lot of the same basic principles are still out there. So that's how I got into it, and I got reasonably good results for a short period of time on the paleo diet, and then I started researching low carb more and more, and discovered kind of the ketogenic diet, the bulletproof diet, and I just kind of kept going further in the direction of lower carb, and it really led me to a place that where it was like my health started out pretty good, and then it was kind of going down a little bit. I was losing weight, but my overall health and performance was going down, but just gradually. And so it wasn't something that was easy to notice. And then it kind of went from a gradual decline to more of a sharp decline as I went further and further down that rabbit hole. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up eventually coming to plant-based, was kind of rejecting some of the things that I had adopted from the memes and the recurrent themes in the low carb movement. That's what led me to plant-based. I had to say, maybe not all of the stuff that I thought was true is actually true. And that's part of that's a tough pill to swallow, so to speak.
Yeah, the red pill too, when it comes to nutrition. I also found out that like in life, there are a lot of red pills that you have to swallow, not only like just in nutrition and like in relationships, but also a couple other factors that we're not touching upon right now. I just also assume like the low carb diet was heavily just animal based and meat focused, probably.
Yeah, and I was living in a rural part of Virginia at the time, so I had access to local farmers, guys like Joel Salatin, for people who know. I was spending a lot of money on food at that time, and it was really surreal to me the amount of money I was spending, and then seeing how my health wasn't getting better. It just made me choose to go a different route ultimately. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was heavily animal based, to answer your question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I also had this journey of just following a very rigid like low carb diet, literally like 0 carbs in a day. But this like fucked me up just 2 or 3 weeks down the road. And I didn't actually, the fun thing was I didn't see the results because I had no clue. I was just a stupid bodybuilder that lives for the gym, but I had no clue about nutrition back then. At least I hope so. But now it's a little bit better. And I also remember my ex-girlfriend was vegetarian, and the first time, like when I told her what I'm eating for breakfast, it's like 6 eggs, then 100 grams of oatmeal, then like full with milk, and preparing lunch with like 500 grams of chicken. Fucking crazy.
Yeah. It sounds like you were able to recognize that it wasn't working for you on a personal level before it got too far out of hand and you lost control of your health. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's a good ability to recognize that when it's not working, and that can be very hard.
Mm-hmm. What was the point for you that you realized, okay, now we're going too far, I have to make a change? Was it more like gradual, or was it like, okay, now we have to do changes?
Man, it was such a long journey for me that lasted several years, actually. Mm-hmm. And what it led me to was a place where I actually ended up skinny fat. I had lost a lot of muscle mass, and I was having real tough time recovering from workouts, in addition to what I would say is like a diffuse fatigue, like pain. And looking back, I'd look at that as like severe glycogen depletion, and doing things like using stimulants to get my energy rather than carbohydrates, basically. And what that led me to was a place where I wasn't in good health. I had lost a lot of weight. I actually became underweight, but I still had a kind of a gut at the time, and I didn't know what to do. And I had adopted a bunch of what I would say are tenets of low carb that they poison the well when it comes to carbohydrates. So I would say things like, oh, potatoes turn to sugar, or the starch turns to sugar, and then sugar feeds candida. Or I had all these things in my head that I thought were going to stop me from obtaining better health. And then eventually, I'll tell you what eventually did it for me was I had tried to go into like juicing and raw vegan stuff. That was the first part of my journey. It's funny how a lot of people who fail on veganism, that's like the end of their journey. That's where I started with
and veganism.
Yeah, because I was trying to get my health back to begin with. So I was like, oh, I've got to do the cleanest, most pure way to do it. And so I bought a juicer and all of that. That didn't really end up working for me. It didn't help me gain muscle mass. It didn't help me really get my health back. But and so what I ended up doing was I ended up finding Dr. John McDougall. And there was this guy who was like, no, starch is actually healthy. And I was like, no, hold on, man. This guy's crazy. And then one day I decided that I was going to eat sweet potatoes. And it was the first time I had starch. I'd had like complex carbohydrates in a long time, with the exception of, a few of those weird things like coconut flour and all the stuff that's like acceptable on paleo or low carb or whatever. I would make like 12 egg coconut flour bread and stuff like that. But then eventually, once I found McDougall, I was like, yes, sir, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try this I was like, if it kills me, I'm gonna do it for a couple of days and see if starch kills me. And I ate sweet potatoes for like 3 or 4 days and instantly felt better than I'd ever felt in the past couple years or so of going through all of that. And it was wild, man. It was a wild experience. And that's what's kind of started sending me towards the right direction.
Okay, yeah. So the fun thing is, like we talked before, like not accepting the truth at first, because like I think like deep down inside you knew like that something is not working the way I'm eating, and maybe I need to make a change. But like when we're talking about the situation that we've been in right now, it's so surreal that we wouldn't even try like potatoes, because we had like such a fixed mindset that we couldn't even like make this slight change to maybe seek for our betterment. And did it take like a long time for you to make the change to just like, okay, I'll eat this potato and I don't really care about if what happens next? Or was it like, okay, now I decided tomorrow I'll eat the fucking potato no matter what?
Yeah, it was kind of like a choice to do it at that moment, because I had come out of low carb and started juicing and doing some fruit and like the raw vegan stuff, and then I was still kind of poisoned on the idea of carbohydrates being good for me. Like I still thought carbs were bad. Carbs make you fat, and then so I was doing things like, well, if I just drink juice, then maybe the carbs get used, real quick for energy, and then it doesn't feed candida, or it won't, cause all the stuff that I thought carbs cause, all these problems. But then, yeah, once I saw McDougall start talking about it, that was when I was like, I'm actually just going to try to eat starch, and I'm going to eat what I thought was the cleanest starch, which at the time was sweet potatoes. I did it for a couple days, and just like I said, it was just full on. Actually, the first time I did the starch thing, I actually just ate sweet potatoes for like, I think it was like 2 or 3 days. And that's what I ate for those 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
I didn't do any juices. Yeah, I didn't eat any fruit. And again, I was coming from a really restrictive diet. I wasn't in a healthy place, and I was really trying to recover my health at that point.
And it's a fun thing because like the science, it's like very clear that carbohydrates are good for you. I remember at like this schooling with a nutritionist, and I was like, okay, what do you think about low carb diets? And she was like very sure, and she told me like, okay, it's the stupidest thing that the nutrition science has invented, or like the marketing science, the marketing guys have invented. And the science is very clear that your brain needs about 100 grams of carbohydrates to function properly, glucose. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I've seen some interesting research that would go even further, that has to do with willpower and carbohydrates being a function of being able to focus and willpower. And I could link the research to you after the talk, but it's really, that's the thing is people with the Whole30 diet, the whole thing is how they say, there's no sugar on this diet. And then it's really, you look into it more and it's just another low carb rebrand. And sorry, I'm getting some messages. And one of the things that I noticed when I did a video on Whole30 a long time ago is that people who in the research was that they were saying there's actually like willpower is basically glucose dependent. Your brain needs glucose to function, like you said, but beyond that, it's like just having the ability to say no to certain foods, like maybe cookies or donuts or something. I can tell you right now, if you eat a big plate of pasta, like clean plate of pasta, not covered in olive oil, then and some vegetables with it, and maybe some beans, you're not gonna be craving donuts 30 minutes later. Like you just won't.
Yeah. There's also this research that like willpower is like a muscle, but it's actually, I believe, like the thinking that Jocko Willink has on that topic is that the more you use your willpower, you also strengthen it over time. For example, if you eat like this clean pasta for lunch, you, as you said, you would probably not make a bad decision just like 1 hour later. Like, okay, I'm eating this donut. I think you can strengthen your willpower over time, and it's like probably multiple effects that play into willpower and how it affects your brain, or how your brain affects your choices that you make during the day.
Let me ask you, since you work directly with clients,
Yeah.
do you find that people are coming to you sometimes struggling with choices that have to do with willpower, and then when you encourage them to eat more whole plant food starch sources or other things like beans that are kind of starchy but also higher in protein, do you find that those people then tend to kind of make better decisions and have more willpower when it comes to those tough food choices?
Obviously, I think willpower is a significant issue, and it often like people don't know that willpower often exists. They just come to you with causes, with problems of like, okay, in the evening after work I feel tired, and then I eat all the snacks that I have in my home, and that's how you know that this could be a sign of willpower fatigue. And actually, I had this one client, he came to me after gym. Like, he woke up in the morning. He was a hardcore guy. He went out jogging, then went to work like for 9 to 10 hours, and then came directly to the gym again. Of course, it was a lunch break. And then he was like, he told me, hey man, afterwards, like I have this great day until right about like 5, 6 p.m. And then I go home and I just eat all the shit that's in my home, and I can't really stop it. I was like, okay, have you tried just before you came to the gym? Have you tried just like bringing like 3 bananas with you, 2, 3 bananas, or like a healthy green smoothie? Like, okay, I'll try it. And 2 weeks later, like a different man, just because we fixed this issue of willpower.
Yeah, and also not letting himself get so depleted throughout the day that he's pushing through till he gets home, and then once you get home, it's over. You're gonna smash in all the food that you can.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with willpower. I think most people don't know that it's actually a problem, or that's what we are facing, or that's the main issue, because they don't know that it exists. Like, a lot of people don't know that it exists, and then it comes like with they deal with problems that are basically very easy to fix if you just apply the right methods.
I saw a video that you did a while back about the number one reason that people fail in the gym, and part of it is about taking advice from the right people.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the things that's great about the resources that you offer, is that you're basically pointing people in the direction of a dietary choice and a lifestyle that really does dovetail nicely with going to the gym, because you're going to have energy. You're not going to be low on glycogen by the time you hit the gym if you're following Florian's advice, because like the client that he just mentioned, it's sometimes it's just a matter of a little bit of planning, taking a step back from a snapshot of your day. Like, at the end of the day when you're not feeling well and you're binge eating, take a step back from that snapshot and start looking at the totality of your day and your lifestyle. And I think incorporating a plant-based diet in that, and especially some of the type of personal training, or so to speak, online coaching services that you would offer, really gives people more of a bigger picture of what they're doing and how to take control of that.
Mhm. Thanks for pitching my services here, Joe. I really appreciate it.
Dude,
You're awesome.
I spent some time watching some of your videos, and I see a lot of value that you create, because
Thank you.
it brings together the two lifestyles that really helped me. I mean, to let people know, I didn't know Florian until fairly recently, but when I started reviewing his content, I saw a lot of similarities between the type of advice and the value that he's creating in his content and the stuff that actually worked for me. So that's why I was really game to do this, because I'm seeing a man who's saying, hey guys, I'm getting results. If you like the results that I'm getting, the way I'm doing it is a template. It's a blueprint. And it really comes down to putting the time in at the gym, respecting your body's ability to recover, and giving it the proper nutrition to do so.
Mhm. And like life is a game of positive spirals. Like once you decide to move into a healthier you, to go exercise in the morning or to follow a healthier diet, healthier choices will come out of those. For example, you might be looking, okay, how can I improve my happiness overall? Maybe I can start meditating. I feel lonely on the weekend, so maybe I can start going out and talking to random girls or talking to guys, whatever you're into. So I think just your diet and your fitness is a fundament for everything that we do, and like in my opinion, it can really lead you into that positive direction that you're trying to be. Mhm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And what I will say is that it, like you said, it starts with a conscious choice to improve.
Mhm.
And that's really where they catch you, man. That's where the so-called diet industry begins, because a lot of people want to improve, but they don't really know how to. And I
Mhm.
think we could really get into that a little bit more in part two of this interview, because I've thought about how it's a collection point that brings people into, like, once that conscious decision is made, that's, you go look at Barnes and Noble and look at or at any bookstore in your area and look at what type of advice is kind of in the mainstream, and you'll see that that collection point is where they catch people in terms of, once you make that choice, if you're not getting the right advice, then your results are going to be incongruent with your goals. And I think we could touch on that a little bit more in part two of this interview.
Mhm. Joe, it has been amazing to have you on this side of the channel, like on my channel, for this part one interview. So just let the viewers know where they can find you. What?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, so I'm on YouTube. That's where my presence is primarily, on the channel Red Pill Vegan. It's 3 words: Red Pill Vegan. Those 3 words. It's on the wall behind me right there. And if you guys want, you can also follow me on Twitter. I kind of take some insightful observations from the threads and the things that people talk about, maybe outside of the vegan community, and I reflect it back out into the world in a way that maybe makes people question what's going on.
Thanks, Joe. This has been awesome. By the way, I really like your outro. It's awesome. Like when the music starts with this comic style outro, like I think it's
Yeah.
great. Really gets me in the mood of just like, okay, let's go up, let's watch another one. So guys,
Yeah, man.
if you're watching this podcast or this discussion, you have to check them out, especially the intro. The intro and the outro both are amazing, but the outro is even more awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
what I hope you guys will do is join us for part two of this interview over on my channel. We're gonna have both of these posted, and like what I usually say about this time, Red Pill Vegan next.
And the music starts.